Hey, Christian Academy, Dr. Shell here. And we're having one of those chapels where we're all in our rooms. Nobody's in the auditorium right now. We're trying to keep everybody separated, trying to keep people as healthy as we possibly can once we get past this surge in COVID. And we're just trying to be extra healthy and extra safe. So pray for folks that have COVID, people that are in the hospital, people that have lost people that they love. This has been really hard on everybody. And so maybe we don't like to maybe have chapel in our room. Maybe you'd rather be in the auditorium. But you know what? We're going to it's a little inconvenient, but some people are really hurting right now. So let's use that as a reason to pray for folks who are really hurting and are not just, when we didn't get what we like. Now, today, we're going to talk about two women in the Bible who are almost always mentioned together. And they are Ruth and Naomi. Almost every time you talk about one, you have to talk about the other because their stories are really intertwined. Now, I'm going to give a little PowerPoint here to kind of walk through the family dynamics here. You have to kind of almost get the family tree here to understand how this story works out. So I'm going to pause a minute here. We're going to switch over. I'm going to show you some PowerPoint slides, and then we're going to come back. So in order for us to talk about the friendship between Ruth and Naomi, we need to back up and give a little background and history of her family of Naomi. So, Naomi lived in a city in Israel called Bethlehem. You've heard of that town before. And this was a long time before Jesus was born. But she married a man named Elimelech, which means God is my king. That's a pretty good name. And over time, they had two sons, Chilion and Mahlon. And so they lived as a family there in Bethlehem. And then there came a famine. And a famine is a time when there's very little food. I don't know about you, the other day I was in Kroger and I thought maybe there had been a famine, but we got plenty of food. But we don't know why, but for some reason, maybe it was the lack of rain, maybe there was bugs, but for some reason there just wasn't much food. And so they made a very difficult decision, which was to leave their home, to leave the land of Israel, and actually go to another country called Moab. So they crossed the Jordan River on the other side of the Dead Sea to live with some foreign country named Moab in the hopes that they could find food there. And they did find food there. And not only did they find food, but the two boys found wives. One was named Orpah and one was named Ruth. And they were married and they lived there in Moab for about 10 years. Then we're told the very sad news that over time, all three of the men in the family died. Naomi's husband died, Orpah's husband died, and Ruth's husband died, and the three women were left alone. And this is sort of where our story and our lesson for today picks up. So now we have Naomi and Ruth and Orpah, which are technically not family to her. They are her daughters-in-law, and they're left to make some very difficult decisions together. So now we're kind of back where we started. So we're going to focus in on the relationship, the friendship between Ruth and Naomi. Okay, so the sad part of this story is now there's just Ruth and her two daughters-in-law. One is named Orpah and one is named Ruth. I think I said that wrong. Okay, so now there's just the three of them left. We have Naomi and the two daughters-in-law. One's Ruth and one is Orpah. And we pick up the story now is they're getting ready to go back to Israel. It's been about 10 years and they've heard that the famine has ended in Israel. And so Naomi has decided to go back to her people, back to the land of Israel, to her hometown, which is Bethlehem. And as she's leaving, her two daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, come to her and they say, we don't want to leave you. We're going to stay with you. And Naomi has to give a pretty sad little speech. And she says, "No, return, my daughters, for I am too old and I have no husband. You therefore go back to your families." So Naomi realizes that her two daughters-in-law, because they are from the land of Moab, they should go back to their people, back to their families, and hopefully maybe find husbands and raise families of their own. And she's going to go back to Bethlehem by herself. And it tells us here that they lifted up their voices and they wept. They were sad. This was terrible. They have already lost their husbands, all three of them. All three of their husbands have passed away. And now they're having to separate from each other because as in that time, women needed to be connected to a family through their husband, or they need to go live with one of their brothers, or they need to live with their father. And so Naomi makes this really difficult decision that she's going to go back on her own and do the best she can, but she wants these two women to go back to their families because they have a chance to go on and remarry and have sort of a normal life. And Orpah cries, and then she goes back to be with her family. But Ruth won't leave. Here's what Ruth says. "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." Now, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? So she's saying, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to stay right by you no matter what comes, and we're going to go at this together because we're better together. We're going to stay together no matter what comes. Now, boys and girls, I want to tell you something. Actually, Orpah did the thing that was the right thing to do. Orpah didn't do anything wrong. In that culture, in that time, that's what was expected. That after having lost her husband and not having a father-in-law to live with, the best decision, the most practical thing, the thing that was right to do was for her to go back and live with her family. So she didn't do anything wrong. I want to make sure you understand that. Going back was what was expected. Ruth went way beyond what was expected. But Jesus calls that going the extra mile. Doing what we don't expect because we want to do the thing that is kind, compassionate, and go the extra mile to help somebody. One of the things, boys and girls, I want us to think about sometimes. We can sometimes confuse being good, being polite, being nice, with being Christian. You see, a lot of times if we go on a field trip, maybe the people notice, say, wow, these Christian Academy kids are really nice. They're really good. But everybody should be good. In other words, that's just doing what's expected. Everybody should be polite, kind. Like, those are all the things that we're supposed to do. What Ruth did is go way beyond what she had to do. And boys and girls, I want us to realize that when we go through our lives and what we say and what we do, our actions need to go beyond just what's expected. We have to go to the realm where we are trying to be Christian. And the word Christian means little Christ. And so we want to try to imitate and be like Christ in going way beyond what's expected. You know, it's not just enough to simply say, well, I went to church because that's what's expected of me. Did you pay attention? Did you pray? Did you listen? Then you ask yourself, what am I supposed to do with what I heard at church this week? If you hear that somebody in your neighborhood is sick, yeah, you prayed for them. That was good. Did you go visit them? Did you send them a card? Did you make something for them? You know, find a way to go beyond what is just expected and go into the realm of being Christian, doing things that are sacrifices, things that cost you something, and not simply just being quiet and good and thinking, well, that's the Christian thing to do. I want you to get it. Orpah did the right thing. She went back to her family. That's what was expected. Ruth went way beyond what she had to do. And as a result of that, we're going to find out, if you read through the rest of the story, that as a result of that, Ruth meets a guy named Boaz. They eventually fall in love and get married. And they have a child, and that child has a child. And eventually, she ends up in being the grandmother of King David, and then ends up actually being part of Jesus's family. So that's pretty awesome to think that this foreigner, this stranger, who went above and beyond what she had to do, ends up actually being part of the family that brought us Jesus. So I want you to do more than you have to. I want you to do more than expected. Not just be good, not just be considered sort of you're a polite little boy. I want you to say, you know what? I'm going to do something more than anybody expected me to do, because I want to do it for Christ. All right. Hope you had a good time this week. I'm recording this. It's all snowy outside, so we have school after all. All right. Talk to you later. This is Dr. Shell. God bless you.
It's always better when we're together. It's always better when we're together. Yeah, we'll look at them stars when we're together.